Kia ora, I'm Grant. Welcome to New Zealand. Come on, let's go have a look.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another edition of Star Wars Collections and Displays. As always, I'm Jack here with Jim. Hello, Jim. We have a very special collector tonight. His name is Grant. Grant, I'm going to give you a moment right now. Before I do, I wanted to say, if you like these videos, go ahead and give us a like right now. I'll say that at the beginning instead of the end. I usually reserve it for the end. But if you like these videos, give the like now. We really want to get our likes up, spread this around as much as possible. As I said, a very special collector with us tonight. Grant, I want to give you the mic for a moment here. If you can introduce yourself, where are you from, and a little bit about your collection before we get into the questions.
Sure. So, kia ora, guys. I'm from New Zealand. My name's Grant. I have been collecting since I was a kid, but I had a bit of a tragedy when I was a bit younger and discovered air rifles and decided to destroy my collection. So it's all, none of it is my original collection, but it's all been carefully and lovingly collected over the years now.
Fantastic. Looks like a really nice collection from what I've seen so far. I'm going to jump right into the questions, starting off with, what is it that you're collecting? Is it action figures, vehicles, helmets, lightsabers, comics?
Mainly I like the 375 size figures. I've got some Black Series. I've got a couple of helmets. I don't really collect them. I've got a Vader and a X-Wing pilot helmet. I like vintage, but I also like the more modern figures as well. So I've got a large cabinet of vintage, and the rest is mainly modern. Vintage collection, Power of the Force, Saga, Legacy, all that kind of thing. Yeah. And I've got...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I've got some 6-inch Black Series that, it's a bit of fun. It's got better detail and things like that, just to be able to see them. When you're getting old like me, you kind of, your eyesight's going a little bit there. So the bigger the better in that regard.
The biggest complaint about my little Ford that I drive, it's got the technology in there where the phone connects to the sound system, but the words on the dash are about that big. And it's like I got to get my glasses out just to look at the dash and understand what it's telling me.
Sure.
Need to think of senior people with weakening eyes.
Yeah. Well, I'll say I'm not too senior yet. I'm only 49, but yeah.
I'll go off on a little avenue for a moment and let you two know, and I guess everyone else that's kind of watching, but I signed myself up for a excursion type thing that they had to give your age, and I put, one adult, and I just recently turned 51, so you were kind of right there together, Grant, as far as age range, and it said, cannot accept you. And I'm like, what? Why? What do you mean it can't accept me? And I did a little searching down below, and it said, if you're 50 or above, you have to put senior. You're no longer an adult. And it was the first time I had to classify myself as a senior. And I'm just like, what are they talking about? But that happened. So yes. Sorry.
So going back to your collection, I did notice predominantly it was 3 3/4. I thought I saw a few 6-inch or Black Series. I don't think I remember seeing anything bigger than the 6-inch or Black Series, though.
No, I've got a 12-inch Dengar Bounty Hunter, and there's a couple of the cheaper ones. I don't really collect them. I don't think the detail in the larger 12-inch is very, very good. They're too, hate the word, but toyish. They're kind of like dolls, I guess, even though I'm in a room surrounded by dolls, but yeah.
The 3 3/4 doesn't really, at least in my mind, represent dolls. I've said this before, that when I was a little kid, I used to play with my G.I. Joe, which was at the time in the 60s, 12 inches. And
Yeah.
one time, I remember my dad specifically saying it, boys don't play with dolls. And it really lent a negative stigma to the G.I. Joe at the time. And to a minor degree, I don't think I ever went back to it until a few years back. And then that brought me not only into G.I. Joe or bounced me off G.I. Joe and over into Star Wars, but I ended up ultimately going back to G.I. Joe and fulfilling or gathering all those childhood memories as well.
Yeah, I think when Kenner brought out the vintage line originally, and the 12s and the 3 and 7.5s, they really kind of like break that kind of stigma of girls play with this, boys play with that. So it was quite good. One of my cousins is the same age as me. She she had a large collection of Star Wars at the time, and she still got it because she's a girl. She didn't destroy it with air rifles or firecrackers or anything like that. So her collection still remains to this day, and she's actually given me a few things, and they're in way better collection than if I'd kept my ones. So yeah.
Wow, that's great. Where's she at?
She lives in Melbourne in Australia.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I can
Tell
see
us
the
what's
wheels
the
turning for
difference.
Jim. He's thinking another interview already.
Well, they
not
also say
yet.
people that have similar interests might be bonding together. So I'm not married, so who knows what might happen.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, she is very married,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah,
Sorry about that.
that's
So
okay, Jim.
tell us,
I'll put in the word. Fingers crossed for you.
Well, if she's looking for U.S. citizenship, you know.
tell us what is the difference between someone from New Zealand and someone from Australia?
We've got the brains. Yeah, yeah. No, it basically all comes down to the way we speak. We're uh, we've got a different accent to them, or accent to them. Um, they yeah, they're a little bit different, but basically we hate each other, but we love each other. We're our closest neighbours, uh, best friends. I was in a pub years ago. There were two Aussies and there was me at the bar. The two Aussies were just giving me crap all day. We got sick of each other. We eventually all shut up, and then this Pommy guy came up, and he started hassling me, and it was getting a little bit uncomfortable. And these two Aussie guys came up and they said, "Are you right there, Anzac?" And I said, "Yeah, I am now." And that's the kind of bond we have. We've fought together. We don't fight against each other. We just give each other a hell of a time. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. Very nice.
That is nice. I was on a cruise once out of Sydney, Australia, and it was kind of a mix between a bunch of Aussies and New Zealanders, Kiwis, I think they called them. I don't know. Hopefully that's not derogatory to call them Kiwi, but
No,
that's,
no,
what I heard a lot. And I was, being an American and not really from that culture, I was learning quite a bit. But there was a comedian that was Australian, and I thought he was quite funny. And he was kind of talking about the differences between New Zealand and Australia. And a lot of it was the accent and the way certain words are spoken. The one word that he was saying quite a bit is he went to the airport and he was looking for the check-in, and they kept saying, the chicken is over there. And he's like, no, I don't need the chicken, I need the check-in. And
yeah.
I thought it was funny, but the people in the audience were like roaring with laughter based on what he was saying. And again, I didn't quite understand all the dynamics, but then a woman from New Zealand yelled out, and she goes, after he was saying other things, and she's like, "That's racist, that's racist." And it was this really crazy to see that kind of dynamic happening in that room. Again, I thought it was
Yeah,
funny, but not hilarious. They thought it was hilarious.
it can be a little bit confusing. A friend of mine's sister, or a friend of mine, she worked with a Lebanese woman, and the Lebanese woman said that her family are coming over from Lebanon to Australia, and they're going to be showing them around. So then the next time she saw her workmate, she said, "Oh, did you do any terroristy things.
Right.
And
What are you talking about?
you know,
Lebanon, yeah.
the woman was quite taken aback by it, and of course, what she said was touristy,
Touristy. Not
but
touristy, but
yeah,
just
the
that accent, yeah.
just didn't translate,
Right.
and yeah, a little bit awkward there, but
Little awkward.
yeah, she's known for that.
I fell
Yeah.
for it a second ago.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, back to Star Wars.
yeah.
So within the realm of Star Wars items you're collecting, is there a particular series or storyline that you aspire to try to collect, or is it just anything that appeals to you, or what is it based off of?
Well, the first three movies were what I was originally trying to only collect. They're my favorites. I didn't like the prequels when they came out so much, and therefore I didn't like that line of toys. I've even said to friends of mine I'm not going to collect that. But now I've got a huge collection of, Attack of the Clones and Gungans and stupid things like that. And but it's predominantly the first three that I really like. But we've been lucky to have cool series like Mandalorian and Rebels and Rogue One. So it's kind of easy to include those into the collection as well. I'm not a big fan of the sequel movies, I guess you call them, Force Awakens, that kind of thing. I've got minimal collection of that, but I will say I've got three decent shelves with it. So it's it's
minimal but three shelves.
So out of curiosity, what would be the reason for disliking the prequels in the beginning? Just because they were different?
No, it's our fault. As people who grew up watching Star Wars at that age, we loved it. We couldn't see any faults in it, and if we could, it was just a bunch of Ewoks, and we thought, well, teddy bears, well, if that's the worst of it. So we couldn't see any fault in that. And we had such a long period without Star Wars. The toy line stopped in about 85. There were nothing new coming out. We had such a long period without it, and we craved it. We wanted more. And so when we found out there's new Star Wars coming out, we got so excited we couldn't wait. Phantom Menace, fantastic, and all that. But then we nitpicked because we're adults now, and we can see the faults, and we don't like Jar Jar because he's a kiddie kind of thing. Well, the droids have always been, childish and comedic and all that kind of thing, and sidekicks. But we couldn't disestablish that from what we're seeing now and saying it's the same thing. It's aimed at kids, and that's what it's for. So us being adults, we're too critical of Star Wars, especially with the new Disney. People say it's ruined and all that kind of thing. Well, yeah, it is ruined. I mean, you're looking at licking the ice cream that you had 50 years ago. It's not the same, So
Let me follow that up, Grant. So I understand your dislike of the prequels originally, but what changed over the years? Why now do you accept them and you collect Gungans and droids and different things?
I think that just the toy line when it came out was actually really cool, and I didn't realize it. The first wave of Phantom Menace figures, the red card ones, there's some really bad figure molds and all that. There's some Obi-Wans and Qui-Gons and all that just look absolutely rubbish. And then the clones came in. The clones look great. So, and they've got the cool vehicles, and there was a few cool alien actors or alien characters in there and that. So that kind of changed it a little bit for me. It's just kind of like once you get a start of a set of something, you've got to complete it. So, I've got some Wookiees on Kashyyyk, and I've got, I've got the pod racing scenes and things like that. And it just, it just gets totaled. but I don't get that feel with the newer movies. I don't feel like I feel they're a direct copy of the original movies, trying to be too much like the original. You're going into I think it's I forgot her name, the bug-eyed woman.
Moz, I think.
Mars, yeah.
Yeah.
You go into her kind of cantina, which is another cantina. Then you've got the next movie, The Last Jedi was absolutely terrible. And they're going into a kind of like a cloud city, I guess, kind of thing of rich people and decadence and all that kind of thing. It's just it tried too hard. It tried too hard. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree with what Grant's saying, especially with the sequels. I did feel that The Force Awakens had obviously a reflection of the original Star Wars. I could see a lot of similarities, but I would still say I was excited for Episode 8 because I felt there was some questions that were posed that I wanted to get answers for. But that Last Jedi film, I mean, really was just a bad movie in my opinion. Production-wise, it looks good, but story-wise, it's just, this is not Star Wars. This is not what we've been waiting for. This is not what we want.
Rise of Skywalker?
Really?
Well, no, the Last Jedi, even before Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
And then Rise of Skywalker, in my opinion, is just really a cluster. It just gets worse and worse as it goes. I've always been a prequel defender. I've always really enjoyed the lore of the prequels. I thought there were some great characters introduced, like Darth Maul and Qui-Gon. I did like the pod racing scene. Obviously, seeing Anakin turned into Darth, even though we knew it was going to happen. I liked kind of seeing that transition. The clones, obviously, the cloners. I thought that whole sequence with Jango and everything worked really well. So I've always been a defender of those. Didn't enjoy them as much as the original trilogy, but I've been on board since the beginning, finding what I like most about them and kind of just like going with that.
Yeah, that's right. And they answered a lot of the questions that we had. There's things in the original movie that you never got the answer to, or you wondered what it was like. I fought in the Clone Wars, and when Darth Vader says there'll be no one to stop us this time, you're wondering, well, what happened the last time? Because it's coming into the movie. So there was always questions that were there. So it was good to fill in the gaps of those kind of things, and I think it did it pretty well. And
right, the lore is there, even though the actual execution of the movies wasn't perfect. The lore, the story is there, and Mace Windu too. He's a pretty cool character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So since we've been talking, I've been running videos that kind of show the overall scope of your collection. The question at this point is, what would you say quantity-wise is the number of pieces you have?
Again, like everyone else that you asked that question to, they can't fathom it. I've got, we've all got the 100 or nearly completed the first run. So I've got 100 of the vintage, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 10 shelves of vintage. And they're all pretty full of characters. I can see, I've got cases of them and that, and behind me I've got boxes of things that I can't display here. I haven't got room. So I think I've got 100 Boba Fett's, if that helps. But it just really just keeps going and going. So who knows? It's a crazy amount. It's far too much.
Few thousand.
Yeah.
Definitely in the thousands. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's what I've got. It's certainly not as big as some people. I know there's a guy in Australia who's got a room this size, and it's maybe even bigger, and it's just got scout troopers in it. So he's someone you want to talk to. So, yeah.
Just stormtroopers? Is that what you said?
Scout troopers.
Scout troopers. Wow. Okay, so the biker scouts, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just that. Yeah.
Do you know this fellow?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Do you know that?
I know of him. I can put you in touch with him.
Okay. Afterwards, we'll get the information. I'll pursue it.
Yeah. There's a guy here in Wellington who just collects hammerheads. the original ones, and he's only got about 70 or 80 of them. I've got a few here to give him, but it's cool. I like that little quirky dedication to one character. Whereas I said I've got all these Boba Fett's, they pretty much fell into my lap more than me actually going out and purposely collecting
I
them.
have a note here that made reference to you like Boba Fett. There was a lot of them on that shelf.
Yeah, I think that's probably there's a lot of collectors out there that just really focus on that. I picked up a collection of about 400 figures, and there was about 40 Boba Fett's in it. There was about 30 Jangos, and there was the most of it was clone troopers, and so it was just it's what do you do with them? I can't be bothered selling them myself, so maybe one day I should just flick them all off. But yeah, at the moment they're all just standing up.
There was also a question I had in here. It says you also like not stormtroopers, but what's the guys that came? Clone troopers.
Clone. Yeah. So again, I didn't realize what a selection there was. And a few years back, I was looking at my collection, and it was only 2 of these cabinets. So only 2 of these IKEA cabinets that I had, and they didn't have doors. They were just the bookshelves. And I just was looking at a collection, going, how do you afford to have 1,000 of these figures? How do they? There's red troopers, there's blue troopers, and they've got them all. And I'm just like, how do they do that? And now I'm kind of not quite there, but I've got quite a few of them. And I've run into a few auction sites and places like that, and some people are buying these clones for $60-$70 each, and it's I feel like I've got 12 of them. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. It's I'd hate to think what they're actually worth. So yeah.
And you said something about the Boba Fett's kind of fell into your lap. What's that story?
So there was a guy who wanted to sell some of his collection. A guy called John here in Aussie. Here in New Zealand. I moved over from Australia. I lived there for 21 years. So
okay.
Forgive me if I can't remember where I am. But John, he posted a couple of pictures on Facebook of his collection that he wanted to get rid of. And I luckily saw it first, and I just chucked in and said, "Can I buy the lot off you?" I ended up buying, I think it was about $300, and I think I gave him an extra $70 after, because I realised what I had. There was 400. I had a pool table filled up with Star Wars figures that he gave me. It was mad, and all those Bobas were there, and it's just, it's far too much. It's great.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not going to give you any. But yeah.
No. But that's how so you got the 400 figures, and 100 of them or so where he had a big collection of Boba Fett, so you got those included in it. Yeah. Interesting.
I've been lucky to acquire a few big collections of people just wanting to get rid of their kids' stuff, or they're not interested anymore. So I've done a bit of traveling to get some, but it's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also want to go back to something really quick that you mentioned earlier, that you got into like air rifle. What did that mean exactly with your original collection and air rifle? How does that connect?
An air rifle is a pellet gun or a slug gun, and so it fires a little metal slug. And when I was about 13 or 14, I started firing these guns, and you're shooting tin cans and all that kind of thing in your backyard. And I wasn't playing with my Star Wars figures anymore. I was doing cooler stuff than that. So we lined them all up against the fence and we shot them. So
Oh my goodness.
the fence is now filled up with lead, and the garden has got lots and lots of limbs and plastic bits spread in it somewhere. Yeah, but
I
I
see.
don't live there anymore, and I can't go back and salvage it. So yeah.
And that kind of leads me into my next question. What is it about Star Wars? Why did you say, out of all the different IPs and pop culture and everything that's out there, I need to go back and recollect Star Wars?
Just being I guess a child of the 70s, I didn't really see a Star Wars film till Empire came out, and I saw that twice at the movies. And I had no idea what Star Wars was before Empire. I had seen some figures, and it's, I guess I was starting to collect them, but I couldn't put the figures in context with what they would be like on the screen until Empire came out. And yeah, it was unlike anything you'd ever seen before, you know. And the bad guys won. And, you know, in the same year, I saw Flash Gordon. It came out 1980. And I saw that twice at the movies too. I mean, I'm just a 5-year-old kid, so I don't get any choice in what we go see. And Flash Gordon was good, but this was way above its league. You know, it was amazing. You know, and yeah, I just always liked it. I liked the fact that when we got the toys, there was a little blurb on the back of the toys that told you about the characters, and so from that and your imagination, you can make up your own stories for them. I mean, we had the basis that Chewbacca's 200 years old and Yoda's 900 years old. Well, you know, you can, you know, you want to learn more from that. So, you know, you start reading comic books and fan books and all that kind of thing after that type thing.
Take us
But
back
mainly
to that 5-year-old boy. And
Oh,
what was your life like at that time? Who was it that took you to the movie theater, and who was it that helped you start collecting your items?
well, so my brother took me to one of the films, and my brother-in-law. I have older brothers and sisters, and my brother-in-law took me there to watch it. I do remember there being a cardboard cutout of R2 and C3PO. In the old days, they used to have framed prints on the wall of you know scenes from the movies and things like that. You had intermission and all that kind of thing. I don't remember who got me my first figure. I'm assuming it would be Mum. We weren't a rich family, so we didn't have a lot of money for toys and all that. And in New Zealand, there wasn't a huge selection of all the bigger toys and things, so we could get our hands on the figures. But yeah, mainly the bigger vehicles weren't readily available or affordable for certainly my family. I remember my sister told me a story that one day they were shopping for Christmas for me, and Mum picked out a Yoda card. Well, my sister picked out a Yoda on card for me, and Mum said, "Oh, he wouldn't want that one. It's too small compared to size-wise to the other figures." And my sister said, "Ah, but he's got the Force, Mum." And yeah, that's always kind of stuck with me, or how cool my sister was at the time to kind of realize what we wanted, you know. So yeah,
That's a neat story. That's a
That is
very
awesome.
neat story.
Yes.
but we used to. I've got a nephew the same age as me, and so he had a collection too. And so whenever we were together, we'd line them all up and we'd play with, you know, we'd count them off and play a game of Star Wars, whatever that entailed, you know, and we're, you know, the figures I didn't have, he had, so we'd be playing around and swapping those and that. And I don't remember a better time in my childhood. So yeah,
Awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
besides from being outside and doing cool stuff, but yeah, Star Wars figures was it. Yeah.
Typically,
Yeah.
at this point, my question would be: is your motivation for collecting stuff? And usually, I say, is it an investment? Is it looks? Is it enjoyment? But it sounds as though it's kind of recapturing a bit of that childhood.
Yeah, it is. It's the nostalgia of it. It it's it started off with this is what I had as a kid. Um, I when the newer figures came out, the modern figures came out in about 95, 96 or whatever it was. I started collecting them just out of the nostalgia that I had these figures when I was younger, even though didn't look the same and they had different actions and things like that. But yeah, just I mean, one of my favorite parts is actually getting the original vintage figures and getting that. And my original motivation for re-getting them was to get the ones that would have been in my, if I hadn't shot mine, what condition would they have been in? It would have been pretty poor. So I originally didn't have any motivation to upgrade and have, you know, a complete figure or, you know, things like that. I like things that have been fixed up and things that have been broken and redone. I mean, I've got this Scout Walker, and I picked this up not knowing that some dad had fixed this. Not my dad, but some dad had fixed this for their child. And if you, I don't know if I can go in, but there's some metal plates on there and bolt nuts and bolts. So some dads fix that for their kid, and I think that's cool. You know, that's great. There was a guy selling a sail barge, and it was a homemade skiff. Sorry, a homemade skiff that he made because he said to his son, "There's no way I'm spending $100 on that," or whatever it was worth at the time. So he made one out of wood, and it's things like that that make me go, "Yeah, this is cool." You know, it's great. You know, and that's what kids love. They love the nostalgia of what they used to play with. That's what I love. Is
Right.
This is what I had as a kid. You know, all the rest of it, you know.
As I have glanced over your collection, the one thing that I've noticed that's not in there is what I would refer to as graded figures, meaning an acrylic case with some kind of a badge or a hologram on the side with a ranking on there. I did not see any of that in your collection.
No, not yet. Not yet. I say that only because I've been tempted. I've got a good friend of mine who says it's a slippery slope. I've got closest to that would be I've got a prune face in a bag, a Kenner baggie. But no, I don't think I need it. I don't think I've got the space, and yeah, it's nice, but yeah, there's 100 figures in the Kenner line, or around that, so that's a lot of money to spend on.
Yeah, it is. I call it exactly 100. I mean, the case behind me here, there's 99 places for figures. There is the snaggletooth up here that has the red snaggletooth, and behind him there's the blue snaggletooth. There's not room in the case for a blue snaggletooth, but out of the 99, and then you add the blue snaggletooth, it's exactly 100. And that's what my thought is on the original series of Star Wars figures, that it's 100 figures. I think that's what we come up with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to collect 100 loose and then 100 graded, I can understand that's like, you know, hey, we're doubling up here.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is the doubling up, because just because I've got it graded, I wouldn't get rid of the loose. And you know, I've got more than enough Ewoks that I don't need, but I'm not getting rid of them. It's really, I guess it's stupid, but yeah, I don't see any need to kind of like sell and just have a minimal collection, I guess. Yeah.
I have recently gone on a little Star Wars collecting venture that kind of melds the two together, meaning I like the way that the graded stuff looks in its nice acrylic case. It's all shiny, kind of what I refer to that as that Star Trek Next Generation lucite look. Everything's shiny, rounded corners and such. And of course, you have a pristine figure inside there, and he's got his armor and his accessories to the side, and there's maybe a card back in there or not. So there's an appeal visually there. But the reality is that takes up a whole lot more space.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
So what I decided to do was kind of a little bit of fun, and if I can do this without knocking them all over, is I ended up going out buying the card backs, which are the original card backs, although there's a few repo card backs in there. And then I would
Yep.
buy the loose figure, and then I would buy an acrylic case. And now I have that shiny, lucite looking look, and I have kind of the thrill and the hunt, which we've referred to before, of seeking out all of those different items. And you can collect different variations. I found this white Darth Vader, and I thought that might kind of look different inside there. But the reality is, it's not a graded figure. It just offers that kind of resemblance. But to me,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to have a pristine figure. It just means I found a good looking or an attractive or complete figure. But the other reality is twofold. One, that takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And I don't have that space in here any longer. And so where I decided to put it, it doesn't stand out. And so I got a pretty significant investment in all of this, the figure, the card back, the case, and they're all hiding someplace on the other side. But just like all of the rest of our collecting travels, a lot of the stuff doesn't stand out. It's just the thrill was collecting it. Now you've got it, you put it on the peg, and you kind of walk away from it. Which, sorry for the long story, but there's a point of it, and that is, to you, what's the importance of the item you're collecting? Does it need to be pristine? Does it need to be in its original package? Or can it be loose? Can it be, as you already pointed out, maybe an arm's gone or the lightsaber tip is gone?
Yeah,
what appeals to you there?
I've opened some things that are I shouldn't have. You know, from a collector's point of view, I shouldn't have. I've opened ATTEs and Clone Wars ships and all that, just because they don't look good in a box next to open stuff. So if you've got, let's say you've got an AT-AT and you've got all the snowtroopers all out there and you've got a box of an AT-AT, it doesn't make sense to not have that out, you know. I mean, there. But I don't know, to be honest, what what the importance of any of it is, or things like that. It's just, unfortunately, just a large collection that, for a while there, no control.
That is something we all have to watch out for. That's a serious problem. I mean, I will tell you another quick little story. I mean, December and November have been kind of challenging months. The car had some troubles, had to be rebuilt. The transmission costs a lot of money. And so I would come home at the end of the day, kind of, working real hard, but, you didn't bring enough home to get out of the penny jar yet. And yet I'd go look on eBay or wherever it was I'm buying from, and you get caught up in that. And I said one day to myself, oh, you can buy one thing, Jim. It'll make you feel better. And boom, 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 boom. I had bought it. It was over with. And then I'm sitting there with the same feelings once again going, well, that didn't satisfy it, Jim.
Yeah, that's it. And but getting back to your graded figures and the AFAs and the CAS and all that, you get one. Say I got an R2 and it's a 7.5 or a 75 or whatever they call it. And then you spend all this money and get everything. So you've got the collection, you're a completist, you're done. But then one of them is an 8.5 or an 85. And you kind of think, well, I've got to upgrade everything else. And we stupidly don't go, oh, let's just get 9s straight off and only collect those. because they're too expensive.
Yeah.
But eventually we do. And, you know, there's a saying, the poor man pays twice, but we certainly do. We don't, yeah, yeah, I don't understand why people just have to have the upgrade at all times. I know to a lot of people it's worth a lot of money and it's an investment and all that kind of thing, but it's just a toy. It's just a toy. And getting back to what you were saying about not having room, I've got a saying that I like to use a lot, and it's there's no space for my spacemen. And that's pretty much what it's like. I mean, I've got floor space. I'm lucky. I could make this into a hoarder's delight of walkways and tunnels to get in here, but it doesn't look good, you know. So yeah.
And Grant, just to kind of follow up this discussion of kind of like loose versus boxed or mock, is it if you were to go graded, would you want to get loose graded or mint on card graded?
Well, I guess the loose ones, but you're right though. You're right though. What would you get? I mean, ideally you'd get the carded ones, and that's another box of worms. I wasn't even thinking carded graded figures. And yeah, that's just crazy to think that, you know, someone could potentially afford to have that whole amount of Star Wars figures as well as everything else. I don't know. I'm going to stay away from the graded figures for as long as I can. Yeah, I've got no real interest in it.
Okay.
I've got plenty of carded figures behind me, and that potentially could get graded. They're more modern, but yeah, no interest in that.
And that was kind of the inspiration of my question, in fact, because I saw those mock cards behind you, and I'm curious, why do you have some loose and some mock? What's the differential there?
Because of greed, and you kind of think in your small, tiny brain, you think this has got to be worth some money. You know, they brought out the droids cards. I don't know if they're there.
Kind of like those 50th anniversary cards.
Yeah. The three figures, the R2, the C3PO, and the Boba Fett.
Right.
And everyone snapped them up, and I bought 2 pairs. And I've got two sets on card. I've got a couple of loose figures, all in the idea that they could be worth something one day.
Yeah.
Well, Kenner or Hasbro or whatever they are now, they've made billions of them. They're not rare, you know. So you know, I don't know why I've got so many in the collection myself on card, because they definitely do look better displayed out with their weapons and in scenarios. And that's another thing too. I like to make the scenarios work with the figures, the cantina scenes, and purchasing of the droids and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of figures behind me that I haven't got the heart to open yet.
Is there anything about the box art that you like? Do you like to keep them kind of mock on the card because of the art and the display that also that gives you?
I think so, and especially in the Blake series when they came out on card, that nostalgia for me was good. I like them. I like the loose Blake series, but there's something about. Can't even get them off.
Oh, go back to that farm boy Luke.
Okay, so that's a Black Series Princess Leia, but with the old display. Yeah.
Yeah, and they look good. So
yeah, that does look good.
They're worth keeping on card for that. There, but goes
For
back
me,
to space for your spaceman. That's an old wardrobe in the spare room here. I just took the doors off and put up some pegboard and chucked them in there. So
And
You
for
know,
our American viewers, we'd call that a closet, but we understand what you're saying. Yes.
closet.
A
Yeah, there you
wardrobe.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
The difference between the loose and the mint on card is mostly financially driven, but at the same time, there's a bit of what am I going to use it for? Am I going to set it up in a diorama? If that's the case, loose is the better choice.
Yeah.
If, on the other
Yeah.
hand, I'm going to pin it up on the wall, the mint on card is the better choice. For
Yeah.
me, the problem with that scenario is, and what I showed you earlier about the figures that I'm collecting, not all of them come with all of their accessories. And so in a conversation with our friend here, Jack, the other day, he said, Jim, you can buy the retro version and take out the accessory and then put it in with your original version.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
went out and bought a couple
you
of
can be
those.
shot in some circles for suggesting that.
Well, the alternative was to go and get a 3D printed accessory, and he said, "Oh no, don't do that. You can kind of get by with the repro, but don't go with a 3D printed."
The
Yeah,
retro, not the repo. But
yeah, that's what I meant.
the retro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Retro. But the
I've got
problem that
repo
for me,
weapons as well, and they make some of my figures look good, but I always put a little fleck of white paint on them, so I know I'm not selling these, but I know that they're reproductions. I've told my mate, and I think if ever I die and they have to kind of like work out all this kind of thing, I've told my mate that the ones with a little white fleck on them are reproductions, and
that's a
just
good way of differentiating them.
Yeah.
And I have thought about that, but my bigger issue is having bought a couple of retros.
Retro. Yes.
They arrive here, and then I go, wait a minute, I can't open this box. Even though I bought it for the accessory only, I can't open the box.
All right.
So now I find myself going down an entirely different rabbit hole. Now I've got carded figures and loose figures, and you're once again doubling up on it.
So I haven't been able to find or afford a JAK face, and so I've got the retro
collection JAK face. Yeah, right.
And
and even that card, right? I mean, that's $100 figure.
My collection. Yeah. Well, ideally, I'd like to put it in my collection, but I know it's not the right one. So I'm thinking, is it worth opening it, type thing, or that kind of thing. Just for the display, it probably is worth opening, just to complete it. But yeah, no, I don't know.
I can't open it if it's unopened. I still have a R2-D2 that's supposed to dance around the room that it's still got the factory tape on there. Can't open it.
Yeah.
Can't open it.
Yeah.
I would like to vary a little bit from our normal questions and ask some specific questions as a result of your collection. The one thing that stood out to me right away is the little stands that you have a lot of your figures placed on. I have seen square stands and I have seen round stands. You have what I'm going to call a half moon stand.
All right. So, yep, I've got on one.
Well, we can put it up in this other window here, Grant. You don't need to get it right now if you don't want.
Yep, no, there's one right there.
Okay, he's got one. Cool.
Everything's at arm length.
Let's see what this is.
Yeah.
That's like a surfboard. What is that?
That's this. Well, where are we? There we are.
Okay.
That's it there.
So I have to assume it's a regional manufacturing thing.
I would doubt it. I got that off a guy called Mark Catley, who's quite a known guy here in New Zealand, and he sold the stands, the modern stands, and the vintage. I believe he would have got them in from
either
Australia,
America or the UK.
Maybe Australia, it sounds like. Okay.
I think he deals with a guy called Zach Paris. And Zach Paris is, he does the vehicle stands, acrylic vehicle stands. But if you wanted to look up that, he goes under Plastic Crack Mark Catley, and he sold me a lot of those stands. At first, I didn't like them, but they've worked out quite well with a few of the figures and that. But generally, I prefer these ones now, just the round.
Simple circle. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got the smaller ones as well. That I find them to be really annoying. Just because they don't fit both legs on it, it's not as stable, and yeah.
Okay.
But
so having that, the two pegs, I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing. There's probably $1,000 worth of stands in here as well. It's kind of
Yeah, I did notice a whole bunch of those half moon stands. Along with the stands for the figures, I also noticed that none of the vehicles you have are hanging or suspended from the ceiling. They are all on, I think you just called it a moment ago, vehicle stands.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't own this house. So this is the rental. I never really liked the idea of hanging ships. I don't know why. I guess I'm not allowed to pin them up to the roof, so I don't know how to do it. I've got one up here, a little V-wing behind me. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay, and that one's hanging, but that's kind of hanging from the wardrobe there. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's just that. Yeah, I saw your collection, Jim, and all hanging and the Death Star, and I just went, that's a goal. That's cool, you know. But the problem I find with hanging the ships is you're seeing the underside, and most of the underside of ships are they're boring.
That's why you tilt them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've got two of the Legacy Falcons here, and one of them's up on a stand. I've got a corner cabinet, so I wanted to have one sitting in a landing position, and with the figures around it, making it look like a hangar. And then I accidentally got another one. It wasn't intentional, but it happened. And I found a guitar stand is good for it. So it kind of shows it more.
Okay, so that was one of my other questions.
Right, I was going to ask about that one. Yeah,
purchase
right.
that, or how did you position that?
Yeah,
a guitar
so
stand. That's awesome.
Stand. Yeah. So
okay.
And then he does have some up on the wall behind him now. You can see the X-wings back there.
Yeah. Not suspended, just mounted up against the wall, kind of like you have in your display there.
Yeah, I kind of display mine that way as well. I'll shoot some videos so you can put that in the little the other screen as well while we're talking about it.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome.
A few other specific questions. As I commented earlier, you have lots of clone figures and clone troopers. Fighters and ships. There's a number of fighters and ships which we just spoke of. You have that huge collection of Boba Fett's there. Getting into some of the dioramas and play sets, there was one diorama that I wanted to ask about, and that was the carbon freeze chamber. There's a platform, a set of stairs that goes up to an upper platform, and then there's what I'm going to call a cage around it, a wire cage. I wanted to ask, did you make that or did you buy that?
No, that's a Hasbro Bespin set. They're quite good. They come in that lower platform, staircase going up to that upper platform with a cage around it. It's only got a half circle of the platform, the lower platform, so you can buy two and have it side by side and a complete circle, and that takes up a lot of space. It takes up
height as well,
a ton of space with both of them. But yeah, it does look good. I just got some paper, blue colored paper to make a darker background, and I printed off some of the floor vents with the orange kind of the flame. I just printed those on the bottom of it to kind of give it a kind of more of an accurate look.
I
But
see.
Was
It's
one
cool.
of the other questions I had noted on there. There was another play set that I saw that I've not seen before, and it is the Pod Race play set.
yeah, that's a they came out with a little pod racer like Hot Wheels cars,
Are those
and
micro machines?
No,
yeah,
well, the
yeah,
Hot Wheels
so,
specifically. It's the
Oh,
Hot Wheels
yeah,
version of it. Yeah.
oh,
A little
yeah,
different than
that's
the
right.
micro machines.
oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it was Galoob or someone like that that came out with this set. It goes with all the micro machines,
Oh, it does.
and
Okay.
it's just a race set. It's got a little battery in it, and it spins around. This one I picked up, and yeah, again a large thing to display, but I've just kind of incorporated it with the um, 375
Mhm.
size, and yeah, got a few kind of stupid figures hanging around it, like Watto's box one and that kind of thing. So yeah,
Oh,
Wow.
that's a cool figure. I mean,
yes.
that's one of the largest figures that they do. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I have not seen that line before. That's all new to me. I also saw a diorama of kind of like the whole like Endor scene with the Ewok village, but then also the with the ATST there and the kind of the
yeah,
Endor the shield generators and all that.
yeah. So that scene, that's the only one I've kind of incorporated vintage with modern. I bought the Ewok village, and it's huge. And at the time when I bought it, I didn't have room for it, so I bought that corner cabinet so I could put the Falcon on it and do this diorama. Originally, or my actual plan is to make a forest scene um, with my 3D printer and using actual bits of wood, actual branches of trees and things like that. But the vintage playset kind of fit in there for now, and I'm kind of like, well, if I ever did that, where would I put the vintage set now? So yeah, I've kind of done that in two kind of camps. So you've got the rebels all kind of like having a bit of a chat, and then you've got the Imperials. I kind of like to think they're all getting word that they know that there's an attack, and there's going to be an ambush. So they're setting it up. So yeah, I like that scene. It's quite cool, and uh, eventually I'm going to have a backing on that shelf. So I'm going to print off a wooded background to make it kind of look like complete. At the
Wow.
moment, you can see the back of the bedroom wall, and it doesn't look that great. But yeah,
Well,
so there'll be
let's talk about the overall display. So the display space is a particular room that you have within the house.
yeah. I just rent a 2-bedroom house here, so yeah, I just turn the spare bedroom into this.
Okay, so it's
There's
it's
not
their bedroom itself, and then you've got in there a series of white IKEA type cabinets with what appears to be
Yep,
glass doors on them. Then you've
yep,
got some low bookshelves in there. In the
yep,
corner was that big black triangular display, and then you've
yep.
also in the center of the room have a display as well.
Yeah, so they're just a Kmart kind of Scandinavian kind of table bookshelf type thing, and I just put them back to back. But then my nephew's a builder, and so I got him to well, it's not hard to anyway, but I got him to cut some shelves to extend it out. So uh, I've extended it out by about 30 centimeters in between, so there's a bit more room for things there. But I just kind of I had all this stuff that's on it and nowhere to put it, so I got these put it together and thought a little island in the middle would be good. There's certainly better ones to do, but this was a very cheap option. So yeah,
Awesome.
and you can hang stuff around it. I've got a lot of I've got no real idea why half of the stuff is in here, but it's there. I've got the pod racer down the bottom, and I've got an ATTE kind of scene up the top. I customized a ATTE by spray painting it black and getting some decals and putting it on there to make it.
That's what that is. Okay. I was
Yeah,
like, I've never
more of
seen
a
that one
concept.
before, but it's your own
Yeah.
personal. Okay.
Yeah, so I've just
Right.
done that.
That is awesome. That kind of like military grade. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
cool.
So yeah, that was a bit of fun to do. The only reason I did it was that one was yellowed. It was deteriorated by the sun. And it looked absolutely terrible compared to I've got two others and they look great. They look like they've come out the box. But that one just one side of it was just completely yellowed from
Right.
where
Been
it
in the
was
sun
sitting.
too long. Yeah.
Yeah, so I decided to give it a new life there. So,
In
yeah.
the wardrobe behind you, or the closet, you have carded figures. Are they only one deep, or is there a large peg there where there's multiple carded figures deep?
So if you can see the shelf up the top,
Uh-huh.
it's a standard closet upper shelf type thing. That's about 6 deep.
Oh, wow. Wow.
They're mainly VC on this side.
Mhm.
They're about 4 deep on the shelf here. 2 deep with a what do we call it? The Black Series.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a bit
Interesting.
of rubbish there.
So, I mean, it's not just what you see, it goes further back as well and up at the top, 6
Yeah,
deep.
that's right.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
And behind here, there's some plastic containers, and they're all full of I don't know what they've got. They've got so much in there.
Wow.
There's carded figures. There's parts for vintage. It's ridiculous.
I love
And then
it.
I've got the play sets that I haven't set up yet that I have no room for, like this is the solo. They're the cardboard stand ones. So
I've never seen that before.
yeah, that's a cardboard kind of, I forgot what, Kessel.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just
From the Solo movie. Yeah, right.
yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
it gets back to what someone was saying in one of your videos about the kids being back on the packaging as well too. It's a nod to the original items that came out.
Let's see what Jim has here.
Well, there was a joke about this kid here.
Right, right. It was
right.
He got that just because of the kid. That's That's funny.
So when you go about creating, there's a number of what I'll call dioramas in there. When you go about creating these dioramas on the shelves, what's the motivation there? Okay, I want to create a Hoth hangar scene, or I want to create a Hoth battlefield, or the deck on the Death Star. What inspires you, and then how you go about fulfilling that vision?
Well, they're iconic scenes in the movies. So the Hoth scene, if I could fill this whole room up and make it look like Hoth, I'd just have a giant Hoth set here. But size restriction and all that kind of thing, an ATT, AT or whatever you call them, crushing a snowspeeder is just iconic. So, when you've got 10 or so snow troopers, Hoth troopers, yeah, just start your dioramas. I'd like to build a Wampa cave and things like that. But it's kind of, they take up a lot of space for 2 figures, and you've got to kind of choose what ones are worth it for the figures you've got. But I'm really happy with the Gungan scene I've got. And that's I bought one of the Farmer Beasts, and I've got a couple of the wagons and I've forgotten what they're called, the other beasts that they ride and that. And they're mainly just a couple of Gungans, they're Jar Jar and Captain Tarples, because they didn't bring out a lot of warriors and things like that. But it looks quite good going into battle, and eventually I've got a white background on that, but eventually I'll do a kind of like a landscape on the back to make it look like they're going through the green pastures and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's just copying the movie scenes themselves and trying to fit them in.
But it sounds
You
as
know,
though you had the figures in advance and then created the diorama from that
yeah,
supply.
yeah, a lot of that happens that way. There's no kind of real forethought. I I've done the Mandalorian kind of scene, the cantina scene, the Navarro cantina, and for a while there, I had the troop carrier that they've got, and I had that in another cabinet, and I was like looking at it, going, but that goes with that. That's partly outside the canteen. So yeah, it's just working out your space and what you can do, and yeah, trying to be a bit creative, you know.
You had at least a dozen different scenes there that I remember. The episode 1 scene, the cantina scene, the Clone Wars. There was a Rogue One scene in there.
Yep. So yeah, I've got some solo just by themselves. They're not really a scene, it's just they're all clumped together. The Rogue One scene, I've got the tank that goes through Jeddah and a few of the figures, but yeah, nothing amazing, because a lot of that line were like the 5-point of articulation figures. So the head moves, the arms move, and the legs move, and there's no kind of like crouching down or kind of like creating it type thing. So there's a lot of kind of standing around, yeah, looking at each other or standing out with extended arms. It's yeah, they don't look as good. I've I got a 3D printer, so I started using a guy called Landspeeder Luke, as he's got some detailed prints that you can print, the Tatooine kind of homestead and the Tantive 4 corridor and things like that. Things you can probably buy, but they're not that hard to print out. Yeah.
To just follow up
And
on that for a second, Grant, when you buy these like 3D files, do you have to purchase them or do you get them for free? How does that work?
Some are for free and some you purchase. The ones from Landspeeder Luke, he charges. That's where I've got the Emperor's kind of staircase, and what else? We got the Hoth room where the medical room is, and that kind of thing. They don't cost much, and you've got the file. You can print it as many times as you like. You're not allowed to legally sell them on, but yeah.
So those fixtures or backdrops in those particular scenes, those are 3D printed?
Yeah, I've 3D printed the Hoth walls on the inside of the medical room where Luke's in the Bacta tank. I've done some of the street scene in Jeddah and the Rogue One scenes. There's a few different things that I've created with the 3D printer.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
All of this, your collection is contained in this one room that we're in?
It is. Yep. I kind of live in hope that one day I'll get a girlfriend, and there's no way.
Don't feel like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Glad to hear it's an international issue.
Yeah. And yeah, so yeah, no, I've got a normal house, and this is this is just one room that I can shut off, and no one has to know about.
Does it expand or want to expand beyond its current limits?
No, I think I'm done at the moment. I think I'm going to have a good break for 2025 for a while. Obviously, if I pick up a bargain, I will. But yeah, last year I was quite heavy on the auction scenes, the live auctions in Australia. There's a group called Alta, Australian Live Action. I can't remember what it is, trading or so. But yeah, so they do auctions online and static claims and claim sales and things like that. And through that, I got involved with a guy who splintered off that, a guy called Brendan Burke. And Brendan and his wife, Kate, and their friend Ty started what's called Wretched Hive. And Wretched Hive is an awesome site. You can find it on Facebook. And there's a couple of other sellers on there as well. Another one of the people that I bought from quite a bit of things is Derek Westbrook. He's out in Perth in the far part of Australia. And he's got a thing called Derek's Vintage Toys. And yeah, he sells G.I. Joes, Masters of the Universe, everything like that. And yeah, absolutely awesome people to deal with, especially, you know, sending things overseas. And he's just accommodating. It's just a great
And Grant,
crowd
do
that
you tend to buy a majority of your stuff from some of these kind of private sellers on Facebook groups, or do you also do eBay, or is there actual stores you can go to in New Zealand and pick things up?
There are stores here that do sell some toys, the vintage collection and things like that that are coming out. I don't tend to do that too much now. It's we've got our eBay equivalent is called Trade Me over here, and there's been some sellers over here that you know, we go on Trade Me and buy from and things like that. There's a guy down south called Josh Wells who's yeah, he's there's quite a bit of Josh's product in this room, and there's a guy in the Hawke's Bay called Michael Moritzen, and there's Theadra. There's a lady called Vanessa Stables, who's this kind of lovely lady who I'm not sure if she's still with us. She got some bad news recently and had to stop her sales, but yeah, she sold me so many cool things, like the Droid Factory and things like that. And yeah, so I think she'll be missed. Actually, I haven't heard from her for a while, and I think she ended up with cancer. But yeah,
it sounds like you've really kind of put yourself in that selling community there.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good people out here, and yeah, so it you know, and they're helpful, and that's the thing. So it's not just a transaction to a lot of people. You know, they're interested in your collection. Once you've got it set up, you might buy something off them and flick them a message saying, "Hey, looks good like this," you know, and then unfortunately that leads to a rabbit warren of what they've got and envy and jealousy. But yeah, it's great. It's great.
Got it.
It sounds like you predominantly buy just online.
Yeah, I guess so. There's yeah, or through Facebook Marketplace and things like that. I bought my second Falcon. I bought a huge setup from a lady in Taupo who was moving. She wanted to sell her kids' toys. So I caught the bus up, a 5-hour bus up to Taupo, met up with her at the bus stop, stayed the night in Taupo, and then caught the bus back home. And in my bag, I had TIE Fighters, X-Wings, the Legacy Falcons, some gunships. It was crazy, you know, and yeah, didn't want to tell anyone what was it. I had a giant tent bag.
I was going to say those Legacy Falcons are massive.
Yeah, yeah. So she was like, I don't know how you're going to carry it. And I said, don't worry, it's not my first rodeo.
Wow.
So yeah, it was good.
I love that story of actually going and meeting the person that you're actually buying from and having that interaction. That's great, because so much of it does just kind of happen online and it gets shipped to you. But that's
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, really good
Yeah,
building
I mean,
blocks.
these people are selling things for the money. They're doing it. They might be a regretful sale. Their partners might be saying, "Get rid of it," And it's kind of nice to be able to say, "Hey, look, thanks. It means a lot to me," So yeah,
And it's not like
that's
you're picking it up and reselling it. You're keeping it and having it for your collection. And
that's
being
right.
somebody that collects and also sells a few things as well, it's important to me
Yeah.
who's actually buying the stuff. I don't want to give a guy a deal and then see it on eBay next week.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I've really got to sell some stuff. That's one of my things. I don't really know how to start. I've got the Django Fett Slave 1 ships. I've got 2 of them. I don't need them. And there's all the X-wings above me. I don't need all these X-wings. So it's it's definitely going to be a time where I do start selling. But at the moment, I don't need the money for it. So it's kind of like, why should I sell it? But it'd be nice to give it to someone who is starting a collection.
And
I mean, obviously,
just out of curiosity, when you go and purchase one of these collections where this lady had decided her kids weren't playing with it, so she just wanted to alleviate it from her stuff, there would be what people think it's worth, and then there's what they're willing to sell it, and then there's what's paid for it. Where do you think that is if you were to use percentages?
well, that's the thing. I mean, we all think it's worth a lot more, but try and sell it when you need it, when you need to. This lady out in Taupo, which is in the middle of New Zealand, um, she was moving and obviously didn't want to carry a whole bunch of things with her to the new house, and she was moving down south. And they I think I paid $300 or so for this Falcon and all these other ships and that. It was a complete, bonus for me,
Right.
and bonus for her, just for the fact that she got rid of it, and not as a seller's point of view. A lot of people don't know that they're worth money. They certainly spend it on their kids and all that kind of thing. But when kids stop playing with it, just getting some money back for it is a bonus. I kind of like to be fair when you're getting some things, but
Also looking for a deal.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You're helping her out by not having, hey, now you don't have to schlep everything or move anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're helping each other.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, there's I mean, we've all paid overprice for things as well, so it's even
So,
Steven. So
with all the items that you have there in your spectacularly decorated and displayed room, aside from yourself, who sees it?
yeah, good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, the people who do see it don't get to see anything else. That's it. That's it's the last thing they see. But no, just joking on that. But yeah, I've got a few friends who are interested. It's mainly for me. I don't have people over here to come look at my Star Wars collection. It's not it's not a girl magnet, that's for sure. It's not come back to my place and see my Star Wars figures. That doesn't work, or very rarely it works. So it's mainly for me. I've got a few friends who are interested in Star Wars, so they quite like it, and when they're in here, they see things. It's quite cool. But yeah, it's mainly me.
And
Just makes me happy.
speaking of the collector, and we had kind of touched on this earlier in the conversation, would you consider yourself obsessive, compulsive, budgeted, under control, or out of control?
Depends on the day. Definitely out of control sometimes. I was just looking last night at a cloud car, a twin pod cloud car. Well, I've got one, so why do I need two? but I hovered over it a little bit too long, you know. I think I'm under control now.
At the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I can stop anytime I want.
I just don't want.
It's yeah, I think it's under control, but I definitely have spent more than I should have. So yeah.
It's only money.
It's only money, and
It's
that,
only
and that's
money.
another thing.
And look at the
about it.
joy you're getting out of it. You know, so.
It's just fun, you
Yeah.
know. It's it's something I like doing, you know. I
Right.
mean, I used to drink a lot, and I only drink the non-alcoholic beers now.
Oh,
But
really? Wow.
yeah, I gave up 6 years ago,
Okay.
6.5 years ago.
1983 here.
Wow.
Oh, right, yeah.
And
they say it gives
still
you some
drinking
more
here.
money. What? Yeah, I've got the non-alcoholic.
I saw you pop that open, and I was like, "Ah, if he's having a beer, I'll have some rum." But now it's a non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
And
But
I have water.
there you go. But yeah, you got to do whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's people who collect plants. There's people who collect everything. But
Sure.
but this is just me.
And it's
You
not
know,
like
I
you're
don't-
going over to the Star Casino and blowing $5,000 on blackjack or something either. So.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Rather than 3 TIE fighters or so, you know. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's yeah, I think it's under control, and I think yeah, you got to do what you like. I don't get so much joy out of it now. I'm thinking to slow down a lot. As I was saying, I was buying a lot from these auction sites, and postage day is always the best day. And then you get to go put it in your collection, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like I'm getting a bit over that, but you know, it's there. You know,
I know that feeling. I know that as soon as you get it, you look at it. Okay, I set it here. Gone. Off to the next thing.
Yeah, well, I recently decided I was going to slow down and stop, and then I bought $15 worth of figures. There was about five figures, but they had some accessories with it for some vehicles that I had, and so for $15 it was a bonus, and that was probably the it's the last thing I bought, but it's probably the thing that made me kind of happiest at the moment, rather than going out and searching things that I don't need, because it had some stuff that I did need. So it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool, but yeah.
It sounds like he's pretty
don't-
under control, Jim.
At the moment.
Yeah. But yeah, it would be better if I sold some stuff and kind of concentrated a little bit more.
Okay.
I mean, as I say, I don't really like the sequel stuff, so
Yeah.
I don't really need to have Kylo Rens, and I've got
Poe
X-Wings
Damerons and
things
yeah,
like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, collect what you
all those
like.
Poe-
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
offer you a little bit of encouragement, you've mentioned a few of the doubles and triples that you have. You've already referenced the tin cans that are back there in the bottom of the wardrobe of excess stuff. A couple episodes back, we did one on G.I. Joes. And either in the video or after the interview, I said something to the guy about I have a whole bunch of G.I. Joe accessories in boxes in the garage, just sitting there. And he said, oh, go and list them. There's always somebody who's looking for something like that. And so a couple of months ago, I kind of got the energy up and started pulling that stuff out and got it all sorted and kind of condensed down to one box, which is in the living room right now. And every weekend I try to pull out and identify an outfit. And I'm not looking to make money on it. I'm just looking to get rid of it so that it doesn't just sit here. And I'm not going to, I probably sold 30 items in the last 2 months, which is not a big number. And they're $4.99, $6.99, $9.99. But that's all money that was sitting in a box in the garage doing nothing.
Yeah, I'll show you this. I've got 2 of these. They're just a tackle box, and they're just ridiculously full of weapons and accessories.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
And there's another one under there. And
Just accessories that you could start selling those. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of mad. So
So
yeah,
if
you're
you
right. I
find
could
a
be selling that.
find a little bit
Should
of
be selling
time,
that.
you know, you can relieve yourself of some of that congestion. Refund the kitty so that maybe you can buy something more, or as in what Jack would say, go buy a Bitcoin, um, which is doing quite well. So
100,000.
we're up to the point where we have the next two sets of questions, but it's going to include a third question in there, which is our new question.
Well, even before
Right.
we get to this next set of questions, let me finish up the last set of questions. You talked about, you know, who sees the display. Not too many people, but the people that do see it, especially for that first time, what do they say about the collection? What do they tell you when they see it?
A lot of them say I have a problem. A lot of them are amazed. I had a friend's brought their kid in, and he told me I had a problem.
Wow.
I brought my my great nephews and nieces in here, and they were under the rules that, not my rules, but their parents' rules, that they can't touch anything and it's only looking and all this kind of thing. And the littlest one, who's like 2, just whispered to me, "I want one." And I was just like, "Oh, that's cool." So I gave them there was 2 boys and a girl, so I gave them a Luke and a Han and a Princess Leia, and gave their dad a Darth Vader, and they were all happy about that. But yeah,
That's awesome.
It's
Passing
20
it down
years
already to that next generation.
20
Yeah.
years from
yeah,
now,
they don't
20
care.
years from
They're
now,
into
we're going
Paw
to be
Patrol
interviewing a
and
22-year-old from New Zealand who's going to say, "My uncle Grant was the one who got me into this. Damn it."
yeah, this was all his stuff. Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
they better
Grant,
look after me in my old age.
exactly. Do you have kind of like a showcase item when you like want to show people your display? Is there one thing that you say, oh, you got to see this? And what's the this?
Um, a friend of mine got a new boyfriend, and when I first met him, I told him I'm into Star Wars, and he gave me a it's called a sniper, and it's an Imperial sniper, and it's a mini rig that they came out with. I'll just grab it. There it is.
Okay. We'll also be able to show it on this fourth screen, but let's see it here as well.
Yeah, so that's it there. It's a mini rig,
Right,
like
mini
a
rig.
glider almost.
Yeah, that's new. I haven't seen that one before.
Yeah, so these came out in the last part of the vintage.
Okay.
They were packaged on cards. I think they made them in boxes as well, but they were packaged on a card. And they had 3 mini rigs. One was a Rebel Scout, kind of like a jetpack type thing. There was a skiff, a sail skiff with a little red sail on it,
Okay.
and for Jabba's henchman, and this Imperial sniper. And we had one as kids. And they're really cheap. They're terribly made, and they are worth a mint. They're worth about, I guess, $500 here now.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's a really pathetic toy, but really hard to get because they didn't make so many. Same as the last 17, that kind of concept. And he just gave me this. He just said to me, he showed me a photo of it, and I said, "Wow, that's really rare."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, it's yours." And I
Wow.
was just like, That's amazing." So that's my favorite thing to show people. But it's not my favorite thing. I've got a few cool things like this is a Chinese knockoff, and I just love it. It's worth nothing, but I don't know where you are. There you are. He's
Wow.
got Google
Interesting.
eyes.
Yeah.
They've painted white eyes and red dots on his eyeball, and he's a terrible figure. It's worth about 10 cents or so, but just the fact that some lady was in a factory painting this and decided to put Google eyes on him is brilliant. So I like little things like that.
Do you know who the
Um,
manufacturer of that item is?
oh, yeah, God, I don't know.
It's probably just a person. It's almost like those European, like the knockoffs that he was talking about, where
Yeah,
they didn't sell them
but
like in Poland, so people just started making
yeah,
their own Star Wars figures.
in China they would have made 1 million of these, and yeah. So
Yeah.
no, it's a terrible knockoff. There's no name brand. It feels like it's going to break when you pick it up. It's great,
Great.
and yeah,
So unique.
Yeah, just something cool like that. There was I think it came in a set. It was in a cheap market or so like that. Came in a set with a Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he looked like he was, on LSD, and it was just the whole set was just terrible, and yeah, just try to knock it off and yeah, and make it. But yeah, I mean, I like everything in this room, I guess, and yeah, you can't have a favorite. That's
Right,
not
right.
my
Well, let me
kind
ask
of.
you this. Do you have a favorite Star Wars movie or now a favorite Star Wars series? What would that be?
Oh, it's definitely yeah, definitely Empire Strikes Back. The first one I saw, and as I say, the bad guy. Yep, that's it. The bad guys win, and it's great, and it's got horror. Ivan Kershner directed that so well, and it was just amazing. It's got suspense at the end. I don't know if you know, but Darth Vader turns out to be Luke's father, and yeah, I know, but but yeah,
Spoiler
it's
alert.
Spoiler
Spoiler
alert.
yeah. No, I think enough time's passed. But yeah, yeah, it's the movie. It's great.
Right.
Got the cool characters in it. It hasn't got the mad aliens in it as the other one. I mean, you've got the Wampa and the Tauntauns, but and
Some Ugnaughts. Yeah, there's a
yeah,
few in there, but yeah.
Yoda and things like that.
Yeah,
But
Yoda.
yeah, no, it's good. It's kind of like a no nonsense
Right.
one,
A lot of people in the Star Wars fandom, I think, always kind of go back to Empire Strikes Back. And, it's like Star Wars was great and got us into it. And if Empire had not been as good as it turned out to be, or not even as good as the original New Hope Star Wars film, I think Star Wars itself maybe would have filtered down a little bit. But the fact that it was the sequel and it did so much better and added so much more than what the original movie gave us, I think that's what really solidified Star Wars in the fandom.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, and yeah, no, it just paved the way for
Right.
you know
For everything.
the thing. The new movies are good. The new planets and stories that we get. There's a lot of desert planets, so it's kind of yeah, and a lot of there's a lot of characters that they chuck in there for reminiscing. Like Ponda Barber and Dr. Everson from the cantina there in Rogue One in one scene. And
They kind of show up. Yeah, just kind of bump into
yeah,
them. Yeah, Walrus Man. And
yeah.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's kind of cool, but yeah, that's what I was talking about before. About it's nostalgic for us, and that's what we wanted. We want to see these old characters come back, but
You're old friends.
yeah, that's the way to look at it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For sure.
That's it. And for all the rubbish of the new film, there is a cool line in that where C3PO is about to switch off, and they're like, "What are you doing, 3PO?" And he goes, "I'm just looking at my friends for the last time," and that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
They got a
And
couple good
when
lines in there. Sure.
and when Han goes, "Chewie, we're home," when they get aboard the Falcon and things like that. So
Gives you the chills. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
A few of those member berries. Grant, ultimately, what do you think in your head is the conclusion to your collection? Where is this collection going to be in 20 years from now? What's going to happen?
Oh, it could be a house fire tomorrow, so it could be gone. I don't know. Yeah, I've had some health issues over the last couple of years. I had cancer I was told it was terminal. It's not. It's gone now, so I'm quite lucky. But I was thinking about where this is going to go when I go, and where do we go when we go. I've got a mate of mine who's kind of got an idea of what the value of these things are worth. So I've suggested to family just take it. I know that no one in my family would want to take on this and display it themselves, have the room or care. So yeah, look, if it all goes tomorrow, it all goes tomorrow. It's just the way it is. It's only things,
Okay.
but yeah, they're things that make me happy, and if they get passed on to someone who it makes them happy, that's good. If I can make some money out of it at the end of it, if I needed it, that'd be handy. But in the end, it's just stuff. It's just stuff.
Okay.
Interesting way of looking at it. With all the different movies and series, in particular the series, whether it be oh, I'm going blank at the moment. Oh God, I can't even think.
Are you
With
thinking
all the different series, Acolyte,
Andor? I think you were thinking.
Kenobi, Boba Fett, Boba Fett, and what's the one I keep trying to think of, the predecessor to
Andor.
Endor.
Yeah, right.
Any thoughts on any of those?
A lot of them are really good, and a lot of them are a little bit rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to what we want as our nostalgia. Andor, to me, was really hard to watch the first time. I found it slow, not as interesting. There's no lightsabers. It's great, and it's really good. And rewatching it, it's amazing. It's really, really well done. I can't wait for that second series to come out. Book of Boba Fett was a huge disappointment. We had the greatest character, fan favorite. Everyone loves Boba Fett. Everyone's got more than one of them in their collection. And it's about an old man who has a lot of baths. That's all it is. He's always injured and going off to have a bath. He's not the bad guy that we thought he was. He's got a heart. It was rubbish. The Gamorrean guards were on a diet. There were speeder bikes that were going the speed of an old man walking. It was really ridiculous, and it had to be saved by the Mandalorian as well by coming in. So yeah, there's a few things. The Acolyte, that was the one that I had a lot of promise for. That was the one that I was looking forward to seeing the most. From what I knew of it beforehand, it was going to be set well before the events that we've ever seen before, and it was about the rise of the Sith and all that kind of thing. But it was just tame and lame and filled up with witches and PC and things like that. But it's the way it is. It's aimed at kids, So yeah, I mean, everyone was all happy that it got cancelled, but again, we're just cancelling Star Wars. So
Right.
It's like life. There's so many different aspects into everything. It can't all be just kind of like fun and adventure. There's got to be different ways of looking at life. The Skeleton Crew's out at the moment, and it's not my cup of tea. I won't be collecting anything from that range, but it's not me. It's aimed at. It's almost like a Goonies for the next generation. There's parts of it I don't like, and there's parts of it that are pretty cool. But yeah, taking on space pirates, and they're just literally just pirates. It's the same as 300 years ago. It's kind of it's not very creative. Not very creative.
Okay.
So
interesting. Going back to your comment about the Book of Boba Fett and the disappointment, there's a line out of the movie, the original movie Gladiators, that says you need to kill your name before it kills you.
Yeah.
Meaning
Yeah.
that you need to not keep it rolling. And in the case of Boba Fett, it kind of kept rolling. Although there's a lot of people who really do like it, and maybe the idea was just more content to feed their fix.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't work to continue on with it. And as much as I love Andor, this next season, that's the end of it. And
Yeah.
I'll be real curious as to how they end it, what scene they end it with. Like, is he going to then be introduced to, it wasn't Rey, who was the girl that was in Rogue One?
Jyn Erso.
Yeah, Jen Erso. And so there's got to be some little connection there that kind of gives you that connection.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, no, that's it's going to be good. It's just it's turning. You know, I think Cassian's turning harder and less emotional type thing as it goes on, and it's just hardening him up for the fight. You know, for
Rogue One.
what we see in Rogue One, but yeah, it's and there'll be the introduction of the droid as well, I guess, in this new season.
K2SO.
So yeah. So yeah, it's good. I really liked the scenes in I've forgotten the character's name, but the art dealer, the antique dealer.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I really like
something Stensgard.
That's the actor, but what's the character?
Luther.
Yeah, and I really like the artifacts in the
Luther,
background and all the like. There's a Gungan shield, and there's all sorts of cool stuff in there.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in that showroom in that place.
Yeah, and that's the kind of that's the kind of nostalgia that I like, while also pushing forward with new ideas and concepts like that. I'd be interested in seeing the Lando series being made, just because I think Donald Glover was awesome as Lando in the Han movie, and the Han movie was another thing that was underrated. I think it was a really good film.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree. That one came out after The Last Jedi, and there was so much backlash from that I think people were like, well, I'm not going to support this one. But the Solo movie I thought was pretty good. It was good adventure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So out of the whole scope of all the different Star Wars characters, do you have one in particular that you kind of have a liking towards more than the others?
I used to say Boba Fett like everyone else, and a lot of people say Darth Vader and that. But I really like Han. I think he's got the humor, he's got the best lines in it, and he's a smart ass. It's great, you know. The way he says little off the cuff lines like, I don't think the Empire had Wookiees in mind when they were designing this ship, you know, and things like that. It's just great, you know. The obviously the "I love you, I know" comment is iconic, but he just oozed coolness, you know. And even when he was, you know, stuffing up, and he's saying to the unknown people who are seeing if everything's all right, he's going, "It's all right, it's all right, everything's all right. How are you?"
Right. We're okay here. We're okay here. Yeah.
It's just great, you know.
He's
got to be the best character in it, I'd say.
And you also mentioned Boba Fett, and it's interesting that, the story is really about, Luke Skywalker and kind of his journey, but then you also get that sideline story with Boba Fett and Han Solo, and it's like, hey, I'm going after Solo. That's who I need, So they incorporate it so well. It's done.
Yeah.
Oh God, Star Wars is great.
So it's a real thrill to look at your collection and see the items that you've gathered, how you've sourced them out, the time you spent in it, dreaming it, living it. My final question is, what advice might you pass along for other potential collectors?
Just be happy. Just look at what you've got and be happy with what you got. This collection here I've had people say to me, well, it must be the biggest in New Zealand. Well, it's not. It's nowhere near it. You know, there are real collectors out there. Just be happy with what you've got and and be happy with what you want. Because yeah, there's no point doing it if you're not happy. There's other ways to spend your money, but yeah, this is fun. This is fun.
Fantastic, fantastic. Grant, thank you.
People
Thank
like
you.
you guys doing these channels that are just, you know, they just keep it going for people. It's great, you know. There's nothing like watching your channel when you've got no ideas of your own on how to do things, and you can find that there's someone else. Oh, that's Jim.
That's yeah, he's moving some things.
Oh, my phone, it rang. The alarm was set.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
So instead of listening to the whole thing ring through the balance of it, I had to address it.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's great. You guys have been, you know, surely inspirational for a lot of people in their collections. So yeah, it's great to see you guys do it. So well done to you guys.
I appreciate you saying that. You know, it does take a little bit of work to get all this done. So thank you for appreciating that and seeing that. And I'll reach out to everybody out there in YouTube. Again, you know, if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty of videos with different collectors, a lot of different information and ideas to help you build your collection, not just the collection itself, but the way it's displayed, the way it's shown off. As Grant said, places to go and buy things that might be a little different than what you're used to. I'll put a lot of links in the description so you can go see that. Again, I'll remind you to go ahead and like the video if you've made it this far in the video. Obviously, there's something that you like about this, so go ahead and like it. And Grant, I always like to end these interviews by saying, sir, may the force be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.